Let's talk about a 71-year-old candidate for public office in the state of Utah named Patricia Kent. This lady right here. Patricia Kent is a far-right individual, a pretty standard far-right individual with not very many interests. If you look at her website, seemingly her primary concern is, quote, election integrity, suggesting that she's a stop-the-steal type of conservative, but she's not just one-dimensional. She does have other concerns, one of them being grooming. No cap, she held an hour-plus long seminar, I guess we'll call it, explaining to her potential constituents how LGBTQ plus people, namely drag queens, are grooming children. Now, we can't watch all of it because it's extremely long and very boring and monotone, but I did prepare a small clip just so you get a sense of the way that she thinks about queer people.
They are grooming our children for immoral, satanic worship. Drag Queen Story Hour in your libraries. How exciting is this? We're going after the little ones. Look at the books. Check out the titles. And see if you want your children to be read those books. And while you're doing that, you may want to go to your local school and check out the books in the media center. Because right now we have pornographic books in our school media centers from elementary up through high school. And if you don't like it, she doesn't care. Isn't that a positive thing to teach your children? We just don't care. Now, we can't get to the children without getting through the adults. These are a city council group that have okayed and promoted the drag queen story hour. I don't watch Hallmark movies anymore because I never know when they're going to sneak in that homosexual couple. They're not good family movies anymore. We know Walt Disney is no longer, and maybe that's been for a long time, what it should be. It's all about grooming our children and getting them to a point that they have absolutely no conscience of right and wrong.
So as you saw, most of the evidence that she provides people with of queer grooming is just kids holding rainbow flags, generally having a good time. Now, grooming actually is a thing that is bad. Grooming is a danger to children. Pedophiles use grooming as a tactic to butter children up to get to know them so that way they can later sexually exploit them. So grooming is a thing that occurs. It's just that conservatives like her have bastardized the term grooming so that way even a queer person being in the presence of a child constitutes grooming, because the logic is if these kids find out that queer people exist, a trans person or a gay person exists, then they learn that it's okay for them to be gay or trans. So because of that potential there, because you can choose to be gay or trans, well, of course, they're being groomed into this lifestyle. So that's her take on grooming. Now, you know exactly where I'm going with this. This boomer is a groomer, and not the groomer that she describes, where you're just in the presence of children. She's an actual groomer who actually posed a danger to children. LGBTQ Nation explains, after losing her write-in campaign to become the top election official in Washington County, Utah, a right-wing hate group leader's history of pursuing young teenage girls has been revealed. Patricia Kent was forced to resign her job teaching middle school girls as young as 11 years old after her relationship with her young female students became a matter of of public knowledge in the school community. In October, Kent led a rally denouncing the LGBTQ community, displaying pictures of young girls at a pride event in the county. Quote, "They are grooming our children for immoral satanic worship," she asserted. According to the Utah Professional Practices Advisory Commission, Kent used her position as a middle school teacher to, quote, "foster intimate and dependent relationships with young teenaged girls." She wrote the children intimate notes, gave them gifts, and discussed inappropriate personal details with them against the express wishes of the students' parents and warnings from supervisors, according to documents reviewed by the Salt Lake City Tribune. UPPAC also found evidence that Kent engaged in sexual relationships with at least one of the young girls, but the evidence wasn't sufficient to bring formal charges. Kent was forced to resign after her teaching certificate was suspended in 2000. That same year, she filed a lawsuit against the school board where she alleged her rights were violated. Court records show that a settlement was reached in the case and the case was dismissed. So these are the types of folks who are telling you that LGBTQ plus people are grooming children. Let me read you the definition of grooming here. This is according to Oxford. The action by a pedophile of preparing a child for a meeting, especially via an internet chat room, with the intention of committing a sexual offense. Now, in this context, this was in the year 2000. Perhaps she wasn't accessing children through a chat room, but she was in the proximity of children because she was a middle school teacher, and she used her influence as a middle school teacher to groom these children, even allegedly engaging in a sexual act with one of these girls. This woman is an actual groomer. This is what grooming looks like. Take note, conservatives, because this is what it is. But she did respond, and her lawyer at the time, who has since retired, responded as well. And her response is genuinely just jaw-dropping. Quote, "It's absurd that 26 years later, people are making a big issue out of this," Kent told the Tribune. She implied that she won cash in the settlement. Quote, "If I was guilty of what I was accused of, I would have been put in jail, okay? I wasn't. I was paid off, and that should be the end of it. I am not one to live in the past. Like I said, I've moved on with my life. I continue to do what I need to do to live a normal life." Her own lawyer, Stephen Cook, who is now retired, said that the settlement isn't a sign that she was exonerated. Quote, "It wouldn't apply in a case like this at all," he said, "so I don't know where she's getting that." That's what her own lawyer said. So it's just genuinely astonishing that you have these folks, these conservatives, who are claiming that LGBTQ plus people, drag queens in particular, are this huge danger to children when they themselves pose a danger to children. I mean, as Matt said on Twitter in response to this story, every accusation is a confession from conservatives because it's basically true. How many anti-grooming Republicans and conservatives have been exposed as groomers or have been exposed for exposing themselves in public? It keeps happening. They keep demonstrating how they, if anyone, is a threat to children, but yet they still keep demonizing queer people. And this is all them trying to gin up hysteria over queer people based on homophobia, based on this old trope that queer people are pedophiles. And during her huge seminar where she talks about the danger of grooming with regard to LGBTQ plus people, she provided no evidence that queer people are grooming children. I mean, imagine thinking your child is in danger because of a drag queen, because a man chose to put on a wig, put colorful makeup on his face, and wear a dress. Your child is in danger. I mean, it's hysterical. This reminds me of the Satanic Panic. When I worked at Blockbuster, dating myself here, parents would come in all the time and they'd rent their children M-rated video games where you're like torturing other people in games like Grand Theft Auto. And they're fine with this. They're perfectly fine with this. They take their kids to games with cheerleaders where the cheerleaders will wear clothing that is relatively skimpy. I don't have a problem with this, but if you're conservative, you'd think that this would be immodest, right? But no, it's never them. Taking your kids to Hooters, that's not a problem. Child beauty pageants, that's not a problem. You want to know what's a real problem? You want to know what's really inappropriate for children? Queer people. Look, there's one next to a child. Grooming, get them. It's just ridiculous. So I love this story because it demonstrates that all of these conservatives who are screaming the loudest about grooming, usually they have some secrets of their own. So maybe the ones who continuously demonize an entire community as groomers, maybe we should look at them.
Mike is a total shitlib. Once he started shilling for the DNC, I stopped watching. So I definitely won't be hitting the subscribe button or turning on notifications by clicking the bell. No way. It's very sad, I know.